And under this glorious weeping willow, isn't it fabulous, I'll answer the next question from Twitter about PhDs. And this comes from Charlie. Hi Charlie, great to hear from you. And Charlie asked, if asked about something that is in the bibliography in an oral examination, what detail should you provide? Now, I've never been asked that question before, Charlie, and that's a really interesting one. Now, bottom line, mate, if it's in your bibliography, you've got to be prepared to speak about it, okay? And let me tell you something about how a lot of examiners, including myself, including my husband behind the camera, how we mark PhDs. When I get a PhD to examine, I start at the bibliography. I read the bibliography first, and that determines really whether that PhD passes or it fails. That's how serious it is, okay? So the PhD, I've called it the canary in the mine of a PhD. So we know the health of a PhD by its bibliography. But to be honest with you, I would rarely ask a direct question about a bibliography, but I would under certain circumstances. If I think that a student has basically downloaded a bibliography, perhaps from a library list of, say, all the Baudrillard or all the Derrida readings in a particular library, and they've just basically dumped that into the bibliography, and of course I read the bibliography first and I go, wow, that's tremendous, and then I start reading the thesis itself and I think, they've read an undergraduate textbook introduction to Derrida because this is so basic and so superficial. So I've got all these posh, fabulous references in the bibliography and I've just got this very thin analysis in the thesis. I would be worried about that. So in that circumstance, I would go to that bibliography and in an oral examination, I would say, so Ian, so Megan, tell me about this particular source and how you've used it in the PhD. And for me, that is a check or that is a verification about whether or not the person has actually read that material or simply nicked that bibliography. The other reason I would ask a question about a bibliography is if there is a bloody enormous gap in it. So if you're working on a well-researched field, say popular cultural studies, I'm sure there are thousands of really well-researched fields. And if you're doing that type of work and you've missed out the 2 or 3 crucial theorists in an area, and that's happened in an oral examination, then I will ask you, why have you not engaged with these key researchers? Why have you not done that? And you need to have an answer for me. You really do. And what I would do actually in your introduction, if you're actively choosing not to engage with the big theorists in a field, that's fine, but you need to signal that in the introduction and you need to explain to the examiners why you are doing that. So I hope that discussion of bibliographies helps. It's a great question, but just remember, most of us read the bibliography first. So that will determine whether or not you pass or fail. And we'll only really go deeply into the bibliography if we suspect something a bit weird in the thesis is happening. Cheers.